You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off!
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility.
We have a fault.
Get to the chopper! And leave. To the flesh wound. I am the father.
究極の戦闘マシーン登場。行くぞ。
最後まであなたを守ってみせるからね。こちらが来る。
ベビーゴジラをめぐる史上最大のバトルが始まる。
この子が呼び寄せたんでしょうか。
今度こそ奴の息の根を止めてやる。ゴジラ対メカゴジラ、12月11日激突。前売り券を買うとアクションゴジラプレゼント。
And welcome back to the 40th episode of Sludgecast, the monster movie Stompdown. Of course, you got Sludge here, my co-host on my right,
Mark,
and our brother from Texas,
Ruben.
And man, stoked about this one. This may be the most action-packed of the Godzilla films of the 90s, so this one's going to be a ton of fun. We've got Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2,
right?
Which is actually only its American name. It was never called that in Japan. It was actually just called Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. But I guess over here, when they brought it over here, they thought, well, you know, it might confuse people with the 74 movie for whatever reason. So they dubbed it or put Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. So it was only titled that here in America when TriStar brought it. But this one was awesome. This one came out in 1993, December 11th, 1993. And
I believe so.
This one is going to be a blast to get into because this one's fun. For the 90s films, I'm stoked about doing this one. But came out December 11th, 1993. The movie was made for $9.5 million. Did $18 million in the box office, so did really, really good. This one, of course, brings back Mechagodzilla and Rodan for this film, completing, honestly, the Big Five. The Toho managed to bring their Big Five back for the Heisei series in 3 films. I mean, that's Godzilla, King Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan, and Mechagodzilla. And they did a great job with this one, bringing Rodan, because this is the first movie Rodan wasn't an actor in a suit. It was all puppetry work, and they did a great job with Rodan in this film. There was actually supposed to be 2 of them, or 2 pteranodons in the original script, and one of them, they would actually both fight Mechagodzilla, and one of them would fall into the ocean and get mutated into Rodan, as we know Rodan from nuclear waste. But they scrapped a lot of that idea. Actually, a lot of the original idea was pretty much completely scrapped for this film. But again, this movie, bunch of familiar crew, a lot of the same faces. We see Megumi Odaka again. Kira Fukube, who always does a phenomenal job composing, comes back and does the music. We got Tomoyoshi Tanaka producing, and then Takao Okawara, I think is his name. Comes back and directs this film. Okawara directs this one. He did Godzilla vs. Mothra. He does this movie. He did Godzilla 2000. Did Godzilla vs. Destroya. He also did Godzilla. He did Mothra. This one, Destroya, and Millennium. Yeah, 2000 Millennium. But he didn't do Space Godzilla, which is why Space Godzilla sucks, but whatever, But he did a movie the same year as Space Godzilla that I want to mention. That's one of my favorite tokusatsu films, and it's called Yamato Takeru. And when it came over here, or when they finally brought it over here, they changed it to Orochi, the 8-headed dragon, and that's a phenomenal movie. And actually, with the main character in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, the Aoki, the Commander Aoki guy, who's he's the guy who builds and works on Garuda, which is a second part to Mechagodzilla in this film. and then he gets brought over to G-Force, then he gets fired from G-Force and goes back to Garuda. I love the actor. It's Masahiro Takashima, who plays Aoki. I love that character in this movie, but he plays the main character in Yamato Takeru. He plays a prince that it becomes Yamato Takeru, and it's awesome. He fights a deep sea monster, fights a fire demon, fights Orochi the eight-headed dragon, then fights like a god that from the moon or something. It's a phenomenal movie. Super great movie. Very fantasy oriented and far superior to Godzilla Space Godzilla, in my opinion. But just want to mention that. So Takao Okawara not only went and did this movie that I think is phenomenal, Mechagodzilla, but 94, the next year, he did one of the best Toho films ever, in my opinion. We may do that one day. But so in this one, pretty simple movie. At the beginning of the movie, the plot of it is they dig up or raise up the body of Mega King Ghidorah, study the 23rd century robotics from the time travelers from the 91 film, and they build first Garuda, which is like the ultimate flying jet system. And they decide it's not enough, so they build Mechagodzilla to defend Japan from Godzilla. And of course, Godzilla shows up on Anao Island, where they find an egg. Some scientists find an egg, as well as Rodan, a new version of Rodan. And Godzilla appears and fights Rodan while they get this egg and put it on the helicopter and evacuate the island. And come to find out, Godzilla is actually there because of the egg, because inside the egg is a baby Godzilla that we get to see hatched, which is so much better than Minya. And I'm sure we'll all get into that. But so Godzilla is on a track after baby Godzilla, pretty much. He's following him wherever he is throughout the film and fights Mechagodzilla twice. First fight, almost gets his butt just creamed. And then the second fight is probably one of the greatest fights in all Godzilla films. Mechagodzilla takes on Rodan, then Godzilla shows up and they fight, and it's absolutely epic fight, and gets to a point to where they bring Garuda in and form. It ends up going on Mechagodzilla's back and forming Super Mechagodzilla, which is just probably the biggest weapon of destruction Toho has ever created. I mean, like once it becomes Super Mechagodzilla, the onslaught on Godzilla is just absurd, absolutely absurd. They actually find out because of baby Godzilla that the Godzillas have a second brain in their spine. And this is the first time in the 90s, I say first because it's going to happen again, that Godzilla actually dies. They managed to inject cables into Godzilla's hip back area and electrocute the second brain, to where it blows up. But in a last-ditch move, baby Godzilla comes roaring out of this, trailer and just screams this awesome roar, and Rodan wakes up after getting creamed by Mechagodzilla, flies over and lands on Godzilla and sacrifices himself, turns to this radioactive dust and brings Godzilla back to life. His brain refuses, and then we get the first time ever the orange spiral super ray from Godzilla that we'll see again very soon. And what is just an epic fight, and he just proceeds to just cream Mechagodzilla. Super great movie, tons and tons and tons of action. We get to see the return of Mechagodzilla, obviously, and this Mechagodzilla is kind of revered as the fan favorite. Most fans like this iteration of Mechagodzilla, period. Of course, it's the first good version because from the 70s, it was an evil alien. And then, of course, you got the return of Rodan, which is great. And then the return of Godzilla's son in this movie, done way better. For this movie, originally, it was called Godzilla versus Berserker, if I'm not mistaken. And Berserker was an alien, a metallic alien, that was coming to Earth to be the most powerful being on the planet. And it would fuse itself and create itself out of different machinery here on Earth, eventually transforming into Mechagodzilla because it realizes Godzilla is the dominant power on the planet. And throughout it, it actually would find the two Rodans or Pteranodons. One becomes a Rodan and fights them all. Actually, the poster, for fans that have seen the artwork poster, that's got the Rodan at the bottom over the baby Godzilla egg. That's actually a female Rodan on that one. And then that Mechagodzilla you see on the poster was the original design for the Berserker Mechagodzilla. But so they actually ended up keeping that. But that artwork was actually all scrapped from the original plot and plan.
The face look in the poster, to me, the Mechagodzilla's face looks a little different.
Yeah.
You can
Definitely
tell it's not the...
Well, another thing, too, with this one is the original plot, Mechagodzilla was supposed to be able to separate into multiple machines which of course they scrap, but they end up bringing in that idea with Mogera for Godzilla Space Godzilla. So this really could have been a completely different film, but I am so happy with what we got. I mean, absolutely stoked with what we got. Let's jump into it, man. Let's see. I want to hear what you guys
I
thought.
think robot wise, I mean, he's pretty bad looking robot.
He's a
I mean,
beast.
yeah.
He's like the Schwarzenegger of Mechagodzilla.
Oh yeah. Oh,
You know,
without a
big
doubt.
muscular
Without a doubt.
chest, big biceps for a robot. So, Ruben, what about you, man? I want to know. I don't feel like you haven't gone first in a while. I want to hear what you thought of this film.
Well, for as far as the Heisei series goes, this is my favorite Heisei movie. It's always been my favorite. Even though it was released last here in America on VHS.
That's right, it was.
I think I've always, I mentioned I got Ghidorah and Mothra in one set from QVC. Then Destroyer came out, and then the Space Godzilla and Mechagodzilla last, because I remember wanting that thing to come out forever, and I even pre-ordered it. I was ready for it because I really wanted to see it, and I was not disappointed. This is the best one in the series. The only thing missing on Mechagodzilla that I would have liked to see is the initials MG on it somewhere. It's kind of a throwback. Yeah, that would have been cool to see that as a throwback. Even though in this timeline, the original Mechagodzilla doesn't exist at all.
And that would have been cool if they had done that, because, I mean, they already did, because this was originally, I don't know if you guys know this was originally planned to be the last of the Heisei series. They weren't planning on doing any more after this. And so Tanaka and Okawara, the producer and director, they threw in a lot of throwbacks, like the whole Godzilla versus Rodan fight. Originally, that was Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, but they want to make it that to throw back to Ghidorah the three-headed monster. You know, I mean, there's the Godzilla, even the Godzilla and Mechagodzilla, when they shoot their ray at each other, that's a throwback to the 74. You know what I mean? Like, they'd put a lot of throwbacks in this.
Right.
So yeah, I wish they would have done that with the MG, because that would have been awesome.
Yeah. Because there was a lot of throwbacks here, which I enjoy. Even the twins from Mothra.
That's right.
I
forgot about
both
that.
Talked together. They talked together, and that's a throwback.
They were
so I really like that.
Worked in the Psychic Institute, right, with the kids.
Right, exactly. And when they first walk in, they approach them and they start speaking in unison.
Yep,
like they did Mothra movie, which I thought was cool. But there's nothing of this movie that I really didn't enjoy at all. The music was great, man. That Rodan theme just took me back to the Showa era.
It did.
When it started. Yeah, it did. I was like, man, this is awesome. And the Mechagodzilla's design, like I said, other than MG, was perfect. And it was very powerful and actually gave Godzilla a run for his money. Now, would you say Godzilla died with that, or was he just paralyzed?
No, he died in the actual film. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I always thought he just was paralyzed or knocked out. One thing I will point out that I kind of laughed at is in the first battle, they think they got him, and then they said, you know what? Let's shoot electricity into him. That ought to work. And finish him off. And I'm like, wait a minute. Didn't y'all see what happened in Godzilla, the Return of Godzilla? He was down and out, and then he got hit by lightning. He came back. Why are you doing that? That bothered me. They forgot all about it. But that kind of, I'm like, really? Did y'all learn anything? But I thought the story was great. It was really put together. Acting was above average for Godzilla movie. Special effects, great. I loved Rodan's design. And he'll always be Rodan to me. Anybody who watches this movie, you're going to hear Radon. Yeah, you're going to hear Radon, which apparently in Japanese, that's how they've said it all along. It was in the dub. Yes. Yeah, so it's not really like they changed it. They just said, hey, you know what? This is how it's supposed to be pronounced. But, man, as a kid, he was always Rodan, and he'll always be Rodan.
And I didn't know that. It kind of threw me off the first time I heard it. I was like, wait, what did he just say? I need to play this back.
Yeah.
He said that wrong.
It was the same thing with, like, I mean, you know, Godzilla is Gojira. You know what I mean? So it's Gojira. But when it's, when they brought it over in 54, it was Godzilla. They did the same thing with Rodan. you know, and if you go back and watch the original Japanese version of Rodan, it's Radon. And
It's Radon.
yeah, and then they just changed it, but it was one of those things where it was such a popular character that when we changed the name just kind of became a pseudonym name. I mean, it was just you know, Rodan's Rodan, and they, you know, call him that too in Japan.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like that. I loved all the throwbacks on it. I'm trying to think of what I didn't like about it, and other than small little details like the lightning cables that they decided to shoot into Godzilla, and that's about it. One thing that I will point out, I don't know if you noticed this or not. I'm sure you did. That in the dub version, when the little girls, I guess, sing that song and wake Rodan up. Do you remember that part?
Now, I remember what scene you're
Yes,
talking about,
yeah.
but I'll be 100% honest. I've never watched this movie dubbed ever.
No. But yeah, I know what
Oh.
you're talking about there. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the dub version, they changed the sequence a little bit, and it kind of threw me off when I watched the Japanese version. They sing the song in the dub version. Rodan turns into Fire Rodan, and it all happens all at once. In the Japanese version, they sing, Rodan just wakes up, and that's it. They cut back to the girls. And then when they finish singing, Rodan turns into Fire Rodan and takes off.
Oh,
So they
okay.
changed the sequence. They changed the sequence just a little bit.
Huh, that's odd. I wonder why they did that.
Don't
Yeah.
know that.
Well, hey, TriStar's good
I-
at screwing anything up Godzilla, so it's, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I know it, and that's what it is. It's great, and I really like the subs on the Japanese version versus the subs on the TriStar. They're way better. And matter of fact, they call Godzilla, instead of saying Godzilla, they say it quite a bit, like it's going away, rather than say Godzilla
Yeah,
has gone.
yeah.
Yeah, and I to me, that makes it a little bit more ominous. It makes it like, you know, Godzilla is a beast and he's a terror, you know, he's a terror on Japan. And to me, it's a more effective. So I don't know why they didn't do that in the TriStar version. But other than that, I mean, I can't think of anything that I don't like about this movie.
Mark, what about you?
I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Excellent movie. I liked it, enjoyed it. The special effects are great in it. I think you know, pretty colorful as far as the
definitely.
version I watched, and
Yeah, that is right.
And I thought, you know, I said, you know, the Mechagodzilla, he's bad. They made him bad. It made him look ferocious, you know. But also the Godzilla suit was, I liked it. That's one I've liked for a while. That style I thought was really good. Get a little bit more movement, like he's got life in his eyes.
Yeah.
Type, you know, and that was
Yeah.
one of the good things that I did like about that. And as Godzilla progresses or ages, you know, the more and more complete lifelike that we're seeing him change and look, you know, with technology and everything. So I think that's another good. The acting, the characters were good. It was overall great movie. I mean, be honest with you, first time I seen it.
I was about to ask, was
I
this the
hadn't
first
seen
one?
this. Yes,
Really?
yes.
Wow.
This is the first time for me, and so I was really impressed. Really, really liked it. So I was nothing negative about it at all. I mean, I thought the sets were great. I thought everything overall was perfect. The only thing that I reckon when it comes to Toho, they need to ease back on the eggs. You got the eggs with Mothra. You got, you know,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
style. It's like, you know, they needed to come up with another angle
Right.
if they're going to bring a baby Godzilla. But other than that, excellent movie. I'm good.
Now, so I got,
And you know what? Another thing is, G-Force headquarters used to get a parking lot.
yes,
John
it
noticed
does.
that when he got, 'cause
Yeah.
he gets assigned to G-Force, and he just parks right in front of the
Yeah.
stairs. He just can park right there. Y'all need a parking lot.
Like, and it's such a big place.
I thought the same thing too when I saw him fall. Well, he's just going to get out and run upstairs. He's good. So, yeah, I thought the same thing when I saw that.
And the building's huge. They house Mechagodzilla there. No parking.
No parking, none.
No parking.
Now, excuse me. I got asked, have you seen Space Godzilla before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'll say, if not, man, you just
Yeah.
got a major high into a major
Yeah,
letdown
no,
coming on the next one. But
I have seen it. Yes.
okay. Man, this one, I mean, everything about for the 90s films, because I'm just going to say just 90s, because 85 still consider 84 as part of the Heisei.
Yep.
But when it comes to the 90s films, this is the creme de la creme. Like, Destroya is definitely awesome for a lot of other reasons, but this one right here is the top-notch dog when it comes to the Heisei 90s films, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, Mechagodzilla was absolute beast. I'm more personally a bigger fan of the Kuryu Mechagodzilla in the 2000s, only because it's like a mix between the Dragon Zord and the 90s Mechagodzilla. So to me, it's like I love that design. But this Mechagodzilla is an absolute beast. I mean, he is just. It's one of those things where, like, I mean, what happens when an immovable object meets an unstoppable force? That's what happens in this movie. I mean, you've got those two, Godzilla and Mechagodzilla. That's just because, I mean, when you look back at the 74 film, even the 75, and not so much terror as it is the original one, Mechagodzilla was an unstoppable force. Then you got Godzilla, who's this immovable object, and they just, I mean, Mechagodzilla one-upped him a lot, and he does so in this film. I mean, the first fight takes him down until it starts malfunctioning because he's shooting electricity back. Second fight, he takes him down and kills him. And then finally comes back and Godzilla gets it. I mean, that's what I loved about this one. This Mechagodzilla was just, to me, of all the Heisei villains, Mechagodzilla was the most dangerous one.
Well, don't you think? Yeah, and it's finally in the whole Godzilla series of stuff, humans have finally created something that can stop
him.
Yeah. And they're proud of it. I mean, even at time in the movie, they talk about it, and so it's really, it's like, we're coming along. We finally found something that will compare with Godzilla.
Yeah.
So,
and they do one.
They say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say it at the beginning. He goes, we got something that'll defeat it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I am glad with Mechagodzilla they didn't go with the whole eye laser route like the 74.
Yeah, right.
Still kept the rainbow colored beam,
yes,
but it came out of his mouth like Godzilla's does, which I thought was great. I really, really liked that.
Yeah.
But the cannon in his stomach.
Yeah, the chest cannon. Yeah,
dude,
the chest cannon is
that
awesome.
thing was amazing.
Oh,
and implementing the idea of the diamond plating like they did in the in Biollante with the Super X2, did the diamond plating for the heat to reflect the ray back, bringing that for this, and his whole armor is diamond plated. So anywhere Godzilla hits him with his ray, that energy is going to be sucked into that weapon. I thought that was genius. Like that was just super cool. And he was just a beast. I mean, even when Godzilla physically fought him, like he couldn't move him much. You know what I mean? The size that was, I think, the only irk I have when I'm watching this movie is he's only got 4 jets. Okay. I'm like, this thing, how much does this thing weigh? You know what I mean? This is huge. And only because, like, with the Kuryu one, it's just as big as Mechagodzilla, or as big as Godzilla. I mean, it's huge, but they use jets to carry it to the location of where Godzilla is. Granted, Kuryu does have jets on him, propulsion to help, but it's not all by itself.
Right.
You know, with Mechagodzilla, it's like 4 jets is going to fly this thing somewhere. Like, I don't know. That's a lot of jet fuel you're burning. You know what I mean? That was probably my only irk, but I mean, it didn't matter really ultimately. But everything was handled great. I mean, the characters were great. I love Masahiro, the guy who plays Aoki. I love him. I've seen him in a ton of different. He's in this. He was actually, I think his first role may have even been Gunhead for Toho, if I'm not mistaken. But he's great in Yamato Takaru. I love his quirky character in this, being the Pteranodon fan and trying to win over Miss oh dang, I forgot her name now. Miss Gojo is her last name. Azusa. Trying to win her over, all the time. I love the character. I love all the human characters in this are great. Baby Godzilla, which I think we haven't really talked too much about, is handled so much better than Minya. Minya was this goofy, dumb, whatever. You know what I mean? Like nobody likes Minya. Nobody likes Minya. Minya is my one complaint when it comes to Godzilla Final Wars. I'm like, why was he in here? Like, there was no point to that. Didn't want to see him, did not need him, don't like him on screen. But this Baby Godzilla is great. It's very Saurian as far as its design. The suit is phenomenal. It looks great. The animatronics in the head are phenomenal. They do such a good job with this. I mean, and even going to Godzilla Jr. and Destroya, I mean, his evolution through the Heisei in the next 3 films is so good, and they do such a great job. I love the almost adopted brotherhood that him and Rodan share, which I thought was great. I mean, because the whole reason that he fights Godzilla is because Godzilla's going after the egg, because they explain in the movie that some species would lay their eggs in other species' nests, and that's what happened with baby Godzilla and Rodan. So they were brothers from birth, pretty much.
Right.
And so I love that aspect, you know what I mean? And everyone's freaking out when he goes and takes baby Godzilla when he's in that semi-trailer. And they're like, oh, he's going to kill him. Like, no, he's not, dude. Like, he's trying to save him. This is awesome. This is so, so cool. You know, and so then that's what makes that ultimate, you know, when Godzilla is done for, when they blow the second brain and baby Godzilla roars and Rodan wakes up to sacrifice himself, was just made it so much. If they didn't have that adopted brotherhood, it wouldn't have made any sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, why would Rodan have done that? But because of that, it made sense and was just so epic. And you know for a fact that Doherty totally took the whole Mothra scene from King of the Monsters from the Fire Rodan scene. Like, that was through and through the exact same thing, you know, even the colors,
it was,
you know, super, super cool. And then seeing Godzilla, man, just like, I mean, this isn't my favorite suit. Actually, the next suit, which is used in Space Godzilla and Destroya, is my favorite of the 90s suits, but this one was definitely far better than the previous two.
Right.
Because it's more that Saurian. There's a lot more emotion, and you can, you know, with Godzilla. So definitely my, you know, getting there to my favorite two of the 90s. But to me, man, the music and the action, it is so. You actually see Godzilla more in this film than any other film from Japan. It's 27 minutes of him on screen, which was awesome. And it's just, when he's on screen, it's nonstop action. He's fighting Rodan, or he's fighting Mechagodzilla, or, you know, and then to see Super Mechagodzilla was just even cooler. I loved it. I loved everything about this movie. Like I said, the only thing I think that maybe I didn't like was, again, just the 4 jets on Mechagodzilla, but it's like, I'm watching a giant fire breathing monster. Like, come on, like, I can deal with the 4 jets.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But phenomenal, man. And there's a reason why I think this Mechagodzilla, even for those people who may not have seen this movie, have always felt it's the best design, because it really was. Even the little things they would do, that was phenomenal. Like the smoke, your steam that would come out from the different airports on the robot was awesome. Like, that was just a subtle little special effect that made it so much more real and so much.
And the battle damage too. When there was battle damage, there'd be sparks shooting out, or like you're saying, a little fire here and there,
or even like the special or the sound effects. You'd hear the creaking of the metal and the, you know, things going down. Actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the guy who did the sound effects for this was nominated for an Academy Award for best sound effects that year, for this film, because the sound effects are phenomenal in it. Yeah. So I mean, super, super good. I love the part about Megumi Odaka when she's the one who has to kill Godzilla, you know, and she's always been that one that's had that relationship with him. And you see her, she even has a comment after spending time with baby Godzilla, how she sees Godzilla differently. Not so much as this monster hell-bent on destroying mankind, but more of a misunderstood creature, and, you know, the victim to almost. And then once she turns tail there almost to caring for Godzilla because of her time with baby Godzilla, then she's got to go kill him.
Right.
You know, and you can really see that all over her face. Yeah, after she does it. It's a phenomenal movie. I mean, everybody in this movie was just top notch. It was great. I do want to also say I love the scene when Aoki gets his butt kicked in the fighting training when he's joined up for G4s. Like, it's super awesome. And I did have to look it up. Yes, his first film, that Takashima, the guy who played Aoki in, was in Gunhead. And I don't know if either one of you two have seen Gunhead.
I have not seen it.
Not a monster movie, but it's definitely like a mech movie. I mean, you know, instead of monsters, replace it with mechs. Think Robot Jocks, but like Japanese Insanity almost. Super great movie. Came out in '89. Great movie. It's on the Plex too. You guys definitely gotta watch it. But that was the first movie that he was in. And he did this, and then he did Yamato Takaru, and then he does have a stint in Godzilla's Destroya. He's in it too. So great actor, great character, loved it. Kenji Sahara was in it too, another familiar face. I mean, just a phenomenal movie. I mean, I think this was the pinnacle of, even though '84 is definitely my favorite, this movie was the pinnacle of the Heisei, without
Yeah,
question.
as far as quality movie,
Yeah,
I would say you're right. You know, yeah.
just did an absolute phenomenal job. And then and the
And
next
you know,
one,
it's funny that I never consider, for some reason, Return of Godzilla. I never consider it part of the Heisei series.
well, I mean,
I misspoke earlier, and I said that was my favorite. Well, actually, Return of Godzilla is.
yeah, Return of Godzilla is my favorite.
This
of
one
the
is the
Heisei.
best.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like, it gets lumped in, even though technically it's not. The '84 was made in the actual Showa empirical period. The first
Yeah.
actual Heisei empirical film was Biollante, because the era changed in '87, I think, or '86 is when Emperor switched, and they became Heisei. So technically, the '84 is
Return.
Showa, but it does get lumped in, even by Toho. They lump it in with
Well, it's in the same
Heisei.
timeline.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in the same timeline or universe or whatever you want to call it nowadays.
Yep. But I mean, so aside from that one, yeah, dude, this is I mean, Destroya is up there. You know, we'll get to it when, in 2 months.
Yeah.
But this is the pinnacle. This is the pinnacle. And the next one could have been so much better, because this was not supposed to, since they decided to do another one, this wasn't going to be the last film with Mechagodzilla originally. He was originally supposed to return for Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, and you were going to have 3 Godzillas on film. I mean, Godzilla himself, Mechagodzilla, and Space Godzilla. That would have been the pinnacle of any Godzilla film, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't ask for anything better. But some of the Toho execs were like, that's too many Godzillas on screen.
We can't do that.
Let's bring back Mogera. That was a dumb move. But we'll get to that, later. So
Yeah.
It's down the road.
Well, but I think you can thank Space Godzilla, because I think that they did Destroya to make up for Space Godzilla.
oh, definitely had to.
I think they said, you know what, we have to do one more final Godzilla.
Yeah, because you don't want to end on a bad note like the next one's going to be.
Yeah,
We
No,
choked
exactly.
on this. So.
Definitely not.
Exactly.
But this one, I mean, no real complaints. I joke about the jet thing, but I mean, that's what, one scene of the whole film, really, honestly.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, his theme, yeah, I mean, Ruben, I think you said something about, like, Mechagodzilla's theme is awesome. Like, it's powerful, just powerful. It's just like when
Oh, yes.
you're just like, dude, once it start rolling, you're like, you want to root for Godzilla, but when that music starts going, it's like, I don't know, man. You might throw me
Yeah.
to Team Mechagodzilla here in just a second.
Exactly. That whole sequence at the beginning where they're building them and then
Oh,
comes
it's
up
so
and-
good. So
and then
good,
that,
man.
It flies out. I'm like, wow, this is just epic. And I know that probably the listeners have heard me say that before. This reminds me of when you were saying immovable logic versus the irresistible force. It threw me back to the '80s when Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant had
Oh yeah.
a big feud.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
and it was like this was kind of like that. You had Andre the Giant, Godzilla versus Hulk Hogan, the newcomer, basically. It wasn't that much of a newcomer back then, and they just had a feud, and you're like, who am I gonna root for? Because these two guys are great.
Yeah.
So, and that's what it was. When you said that, I remember that was the tagline when they met in WrestleMania 2 or 3. I don't
3.
remember.
WrestleMania 3.
Yeah, 3. Yeah,
First
3.
one I
Yeah.
watched. That was the first WrestleMania I ever saw.
That was the first one,
Really?
really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Because you had gotten it, because it came out in '80. Now WrestleMania 3 came out before I was born. I think that was '84, wasn't it?
I'm trying to think. I can't remember.
I can't either. But I know it came out before. I mean, before I was either able to watch wrestling or to remember, or before I was born. But I remember that when I got into wrestling with Mark, the first WrestleMania I watched, you had gotten it on VHS,
Yes, right.
and
right.
so that was my first WrestleMania
Yeah.
viewing, was the Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant fight, dude. It was absolutely
and I think
awesome.
I think the cover was, weren't they both face to face on the cover?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I do remember that.
So,
Yeah, 87. It was 87.
oh, 87.
87,
Okay.
okay.
So I was too young. I was
Yeah.
2 at the time.
Yeah.
So I remember it was around somewhere around that time, either before I was born or too young to watch. But man, what a great, and it is. I mean, it's one of those epic fights. They created it in '74, but I mean, just like Ruben saying, the Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it's that level of a character, you know, and Mechagodzilla to me is honestly as equal of as equal of a staple to Godzilla's lore as Ghidra, because I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
when you look at, we got Ghidra in King of the Monsters, obviously, I mean, which was epic, but I mean, Mechagodzilla, we get him 2 more times after this, in what's, I mean, just arguably some of the best Godzilla films when we've got ways to
Yes.
get there. And the only direct sequels from the Millennium series, but that, we get Mechagodzilla again, in a different iteration, I mean, a good one, but a different iteration. But then it doesn't stop there. Then Spielberg brings in Mechagodzilla for Ready Player One in an awesome design, I mean, like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that made up for, because originally in Ready Player One, it's not supposed to be Mechagodzilla. In the actual book, that's Ultraman is who that is.
Ooh.
And no, I'm sorry, no, it is Mechagodzilla. The Gundam, I'm sorry, the Gundam's not supposed to be in there.
Gundam is Ultraman.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the book, you got Ultraman versus Mechagodzilla. Now that would have been like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, seeing that on the screen, but no, freaking Super Company, they're all anal about their Ultraman rights, so Spielberg couldn't use it, so that's why they brought the Gundam in.
Gotcha.
But I mean, so we got Mechagodzilla again in Ready Player One, and then we're getting him again next year. I mean, like we know he's, and I've been saying it for a while now. Excuse me, he's one of the big bads in the next Godzilla film, and I absolutely cannot wait to see how he looks. I mean, like, I know the Playmate figure pictures leaked, from the toy fair they did earlier in the year or last year from Hong Kong. But I mean, the Playmate figures suck. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna base my idea of what it's gonna look like off the Playmate, crappy photo that was leaked online. But I can't wait to see what a legendary version of Mechagodzilla is gonna look like on screen. You
Right.
know. So I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you've got Mechagodzilla's, he's maybe for Western audiences, he's probably more popular than King Ghidorah is.
Ooh. Whoa.
Oh yeah,
Whoa.
I would say so.
I mean, we even look at the Trendmasters. When you look at the Trendmaster figures, they did, of course, they did Ghidra, and they did make Ghidra, and they did, all those characters. But when they did the Monster Wars series,
Yeah.
they remember they had the jumbo, they had the armored versions. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
All
yeah.
right. The biggest one everyone wanted was the
Was
Mechagodzilla, because that was the most popular one. When you get the regular Monster Wars series, the hardest one to find was the Mechagodzilla, because that's what everyone wanted. The Mechagodzilla is the hardest figure of that series, of any of them to get. Well, no, take it back. They actually did an Angor's figure. That's almost impossible to get a hold of. But I mean, Mechagodzilla was super, super popular. I mean, to have him, well, no, you have had. I was about to say you've never had Ghidra outside of a Godzilla film, but that's wrong. You've had him in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He was in that, so
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
forgot about that.
I wouldn't even have said that. I'd have just let
man.
that one go.
That was a great movie, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I mean, you get Mechagodzilla outside of Godzilla. That says something for how big that character is. And I think, when it comes to the bad guys or the villains, that, because he's not a villain in this film, but the monsters that Godzilla has to fight in the Heisei series, none of them compared to Mechagodzilla, in my opinion. Not even Destroya. Destroya is close second. But when it comes to going toe to toe to the king, Mechagodzilla, I think, does a far better job than even Destroya does.
Oh yeah. I agree. I know some people are going to disagree to say no, Destroya, and I've had that discussion before. And I mean, it's not invalid, but I'd take, if I was picking teams, I'd pick Mechagodzilla.
Oh,
first.
me too,
Drafting.
all the way.
Yeah.
I'm going with Mega G all the way. So,
Yeah.
but anything else you guys want to add for this one,
I'm good, man.
Ruben?
No, I mean, I'm good on it. I mean, there's this is one of these movies that's so good that you almost don't know what to say about it because it's so good.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal. This one, we gave this one collectively, all across the board, all 3 of us gave this a solid 4 out of 5 stomps, because I mean, it's that good of a film. I mean, again, we critique the 5s very, very, very high. I mean, those are staples in film history, but this one's up there. I mean, 4 out of 5 stomps is solid. I mean, that tells you've got to watch this one. It's so good. I mean, I don't even know. I never recommend the dubs for anybody because I don't watch movies dubbed if I can help it. But I mean, was the dubbing okay on this one? Because I don't know. I've never seen this one dubbed. It's TriStar, so I want to say no, but
It's
there's hope, maybe.
I think it was so-so. It was
all right.
Yeah.
I mean,
average, normal.
yeah, it was on par for TriStar.
Okay, and I miss this is the Titra dubbing. I mean, Titra was it when it comes to dubbing. They did most of the Showa stuff. They were great. TriStar.
From what I read, I don't know that dubbing got lost somewhere or never made it onto a release. Is that right? Is that correct?
For which film?
For this one, for Mechagodzilla, there was an international.
No, yes,
dubbing,
there was.
but
There was an international dubbing that was done in like where in Hindi.
Hindu. Yeah, there you go. That was the only one.
That's where it was. The international dub was done there, and was lost. Yeah, I think there's remnants of it that remain, from some print, but it's just off the wall stuff, like just random pieces of the tape, grunts of some of the soldiers and things like that. But the actual full dub that was done over there, yeah, I think it's lost if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because I know that basically that's the only for dubbing. TriStar Sony is all we have,
which stinks, but it's all right. I mean, I don't watch them dubbed anyways, so it ultimately doesn't matter.
Then you
to me.
can't say it stinks. You don't watch it, man. So I mean,
but, I look back at the Tiger stuff, man.
Me and Ruben, we watched it, and it stinks.
Yeah, man, So I mean, definitely, guys. I mean, if you've not seen Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, the '93 film, or if you see it over here, Mechagodzilla 2, it is. You gotta watch it. I mean, it's hard to get, honestly, over here. I mean, when it comes to the '90s films, the DVDs, it's the most expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't find one for under $150 of this DVD by itself. I mean, it's just impossible to get. I mean, because wasn't produced a lot here. No, the production amount was very low, but it's also a lot of people. It's the favorite of the Heisei series. It's so good, so good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just talking Heisei, Godzilla 85, if you want to talk about American release, and this would be the two that I would say you must have.
Oh, yeah.
You just got to have them. You got to have Godzilla 85, and you got to have Mechagodzilla.
I mean, for me, when I watch the Heisei series, like, there's only 3 movies in the Heisei series that I actually normally watch. That's 85, Mechagodzilla, and Destroya. I mean, it's almost a rarity that I'll watch any of the others from the Heisei, especially Space Godzilla.
Yeah.
But I mean, those two especially, 85 and this one are just absolutely top notch. So, but right on. All right, so that wraps up that one. Man, we got something super cool for you all next week. We are super, super excited about this. We are doing a classic 50s Monster Drive-In episode, where we have got 2 movies. Since, I mean, every time you go to a drive-in theater, you don't get one,
No,
you get 2. And we got some classic 50s giant monster films, giant insect films, like you would say. Starting off, first off, with Ruben's favorite film. Ruben, what movie is that?
Tarantula.
Man,
Sweet.
cannot wait for that one. That one, I mean, there's a scene in that movie that still haunts me to this day. I remember watching it as a kid, and we'll talk about it in the next episode, that just terrified me as a child. And still does pretty good at creeping me out today. So we got that one, and then we'll do Them, which is probably my favorite of the 50s giant insect films. I mean, to me, and we'll get into it there, that was, I'm not disagreeing with Ruben at all as far as Tarantula. Tarantula was phenomenal. But Them is just a little bit better for a few reasons. And of course, you'll have to tune in next Saturday to find out why.
Oh, yeah. Got some James Arness.
Yes.
In Them.
Yeah.
Yep. A little bit of Matt Dillon, Gunsmoke style.
Oh, man. And Arness was so much better in this than he was the previous film he did to this one.
Which was?
The Thing from Another World.
You're saying he was better in Them?
Okay,
wow.
Oh, yeah. Even though his role wasn't as big.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty big. I mean, he's in it for most of the film. But The Thing from Another World, a lot of people may not know, is the original film for John Carpenter's The Thing. John Carpenter's
Right.
Thing's
Right.
remake is The Thing from Another World with James Arness. James Arness actually plays the creature in it, and he's actually like a giant vegetable. But me and Mark talked about it before. I don't know that we'll ever do that movie on this show because I despise that film because all they do is open and close doors. That's it. Like the movie is like an hour and 20 minutes, and like an hour of it is just
Open,
Bam.
close, open,
bang.
close.
Oh my
There we
gosh,
go.
it is ridiculous. Someone's always opening the door in that movie, and it's kind of like it's one of those things, kind of like the Lord of the Rings films. I mean, Mark argue about it all the time with those. I love the Hobbit movies; I thought they did great, but the Lord of the Rings films, Mark's a huge fan. I hate those movies, even though I'm a huge Tolkien fan and I've got all the books. I mean, not just I'm like people are like, oh, yeah, you're a Tolkien fan. No, I'm a Tolkien fan. Isn't I got the Lord of the Rings, I got the Silmarillion, I have the Hobbit, I have Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Like I've got all of his stuff. I even got Father Christmas letters, which are the letters he wrote posing as Santa Claus to his kids. You know what I mean? Like I'm a Tolkien fan. I hate the Lord of the Rings movies because it is 12 hours of walking. That's it. Even like they managed to really point out that even the trees walk in that movie. You know what I mean? Like, dude, same thing with The Thing from Another World, man.
Yeah.
Just doors,
Yes.
lots of them. So, but yeah, James Arness and them.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
gonna be really cool.
Yes.
So. I mean, a lot of those 50s films, and we'll talk about in the next episode too, have a lot of great actors that kind of circled back in those movies. You know what I mean? Well, for these two films, or It Came From Beneath the Sea, Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, Deadly Mantis, Earth versus the Spider.
man.
Who has the lead role in Tarantula?
I cannot think of his name, but he's been in actually another film.
Oh, yeah.
I've got his. Okay, guys, I know we're saying we're waiting till next week, but we got to know now.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to find out on the episode for you who that is because I know who it is.
I can't think. Come on.
Oh, I've got it here. I'm pulling it up. And of course, I mean, Jack Arnold didn't. Jack Arnold was awesome. Like he made so many good movies back then. Dang it, where's that? It's John Agar. John Agar's who did it.
John Agar.
John
Yes.
Agar.
yes.
So John's awesome. For those who don't know, you're like, who are y'all talking about? You're talking about this 50s movies. You'd know John Agar when you see him. And of course,
Right.
especially if you watched any of, because he was in this and he was in the Mole People. But you know what else he was in? The one that comes to my mind, because I mean, he's in some older John Wayne films too. But Agar was in Revenge of the Creature.
Yeah,
He was
he
in the-
was,
yep.
wasn't that? Yeah.
Yeah, he was the main guy for Revenge of the
Yes.
Creature. And that's what like, a lot of those guys back then. They really did. They circled those type of films that came out because they were so unbelievably popular. I mean, of course, and this one I think is just so good, especially because I mean you've got Jack Arnold, and we'll get into it. I'm starting to get into it now because I love Tarantula. You know what I mean? But like, I mean, Jack Arnold I think was one of the best directors in the 50s, and I don't think it could be really disputed much because I mean he gave us Creature from Black Lagoon. Like Jack Arnold is who did the first Creature from the Black Lagoon film,
Right.
And he did Tarantula, and he also did one of the Shrinking Man, the Incredible Shrinking Man. I think he did that one too.
Yeah, there you go.
Which was another great movie, man. I love that one, man. Like when he's fighting the cat, or what? Or was it a cat in that one? The original one, when he starts shrinking, or is it like a lizard? There's something he fights. I'm thinking it's
I
a
can't-
cat.
No,
Yeah,
it's a cat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
it is
cat,
cat.
and he's got like the
Yeah.
pencil,
Oh, yeah.
man,
Oh, yeah.
so
Oh, yeah.
good,
Oh,
dude.
yeah. Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it terrified me. It's like I've never been scared of a cat before, but it's like, oh, that would suck to be in that situation. So yeah, Jack Arnold, he was the man. They had a lot of good
Man,
people
those-
work those.
Yeah, all those movies are just man, oh man, I just love those movies.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah.
I mean,
You can just sit
I
and
mean,
watch
I
them
get-
and watch them.
even
Yeah,
the
very good.
the rough
Exactly.
ones, man. I mean, the It Conquered the World with that crazy looking Venus alien. You're like, that was a
Yeah.
bad one, but it was still good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
those were just so fun. I mean, especially when it comes to the giant spider ones. We're going to do Tarantula next week, but that's not the only one. You know what I mean? Earth versus the Spider was a great movie, man. It was more fun, like kind of like I Was a Teenage Werewolf. One of those instead of versus Wolfman. Like that's how I would explain that film. So if you have Wolfman and I Was a Teenage Werewolf, or I Was a Teenage Werewolf, then you'd have Tarantula and Earth versus the Spider. I mean, it's both great films, but a little more quirky, teeny bopper fun. The giant Gila monster or Gila monster.
Oh yeah.
That was
I remember watching that. That was I loved watching it.
like one of my favorite scenes is
yeah.
when having the hoedown there in the building and he starts breaking through the side.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so good. Like
Yeah.
I kept going. I'm like, how did they get that thing? Did they force that lizard through there, or was he just like, I'm gonna get through it myself?
I'm just
you know?
walking through.
Yeah,
I'm just
I'm
doing
just gonna
it. I'm just
beast it.
doing it.
You know, even Roger Corman had his fair time in those giant insect and animal movies. He did the Black Scorpion, which the Black Scorpion is one of my favorites to this day. You know,
Yeah.
'cause
I
the
don't know that
Scorpion-
I've seen that.
Oh,
I don't
man.
know that I've seen that
so
one. Yeah.
good. The Scorpion models looked great for stop motion. But honestly, I think the best part about it is because it really had Corman's just horror flair was when you'd get up close and you'd see its jaws moving and there'd be actual drool coming off, and then the sound they made was just terrifying. I'm like, man.
I've checked that one
Oh
out.
yeah, that was great. It's on Plex too.
yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well, yeah. So definitely, hope you all enjoyed this one. You've got to see this Godzilla film. Have to see this
Yes,
one. This is
yes.
like not just Heisei, Showa, Millennium, Legendary. Like this of all of them. This is a staple Godzilla film you've got to watch because it's one of the best. We've not steered you wrong before. Hopefully, we're not going to steer you wrong this time. So
No.
not at all. So.
I think that's impossible on this
Well,
one.
we won't mention Pete and his
Ship of Monsters.
Ship of
movie.
Monsters. We'll leave that one alone. But other than that, we haven't. You know,
Pete's going to come back and do another one. I think Mark's bitter at you for that movie.
how long ago was that? And I'm still talking
Oh,
about
I
it.
don't know, man.
Pete, you have affected me. There's some. I may need counseling after watching that movie.
Mark secretly goes home at night. He's watching all the Luchadores
Just kidding.
films, is what it is.
Yes.
So
Hey, for all we know, maybe that's what the whole cause of poor Mark having his incident was. He started thinking about it too much, and it just,
I
and
couldn't
then
bear- I
finally
couldn't
it was
bear
too
the-
much. He couldn't bear it anymore.
I couldn't bear
No.
the stress. It was too much. Too
way
much.
to go,
It was
Pete.
just too much. Yeah.
Oh Lordy.
That's good. So, all right, guys, and then make sure and join us next Saturday for a 50s Giant Monster Drive-In. Again, Tarantula and them back to back. It's going to be
one.
so good.
One.
I'm totally going to watch those back to back here.
I think I'm gonna call the outdoor theater out here and see if they won't pull that off and try to have a. 50.
Oh, dude.
Man, that would be so great.
That would. I
So
would
great.
donate money for that to happen.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
I'll pay my ticket to get in. And here, do you want
I mean, they're not playing anything out there anyway.
Yeah.
Really. I think Bill and Ted's new movie was out there, but other than that, everything's reruns been out there.
That's what we
So,
do. We need to do a
all summer
50s
long.
classic drive-in.
Yeah, you got to.
Oh,
people,
that
you
would be
got
so
to. Yeah.
cool.
That would be
So-
awesome. I would want to do like a giant, like an atomic 50s, and then and do like Tarantula and them.
Oh yeah.
But then do like I would love to do like an Aliens 50s. Like I want to see like Earth versus the Flying Saucers,
yeah.
and then This Island Earth. You know, the dudes with the
Oh,
map,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
forehead. Like I would love to see those two back to back.
That would be good. That would be
so
good.
cool. Alrighty, well, guys, again, thank you all so much for joining us. This is Sludge.
And Mark.
And Ruben.
Y'all have a good night.